say something.
I mean, I'm not going to be as involved as Alex. I can sit back a little bit. But well, most people last time joined a little bit late.
Yeah,
that's true.
I'd say let's. Oh, we're talking. We're live.
But, yeah. Okay, so we're up. Well, most people last time joined a little bit late.
Yeah. So should we start with the debate?
If you want to.
All right. I figure that's the most topical thing at the moment.
I mean, I really don't care what we talk about. So
that's definitely a topic I'm comfortable with. Can somebody send me a link to the YouTube stream? Is this going to YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube right now. I just searched "The State Is Not God."
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, I was trying to pull it back. I mean, I got the stream.
Well, welcome to the podcast, whoever's watching. And
yeah, right.
Right. Totally unorganized here.
Yeah, a bunch of
turns out, yeah, anarchists can't get things organized, I guess.
It's that old thing about herding cats and libertarians.
So anyway, last week during our introductions, I forgot to mention I run the page, the Anti-Communist Society. So this is just a shameless plug to get a few more likes.
All right, yeah. Put I don't know if you can put links in comments or what. I don't know how to do that, but yeah.
Yeah, just go to Facebook, search for the Anti-Communist Society. That's me.
Yeah, I guess we could. I don't know if we could plug the Facebook group too. I mean,
right. It's in the title. Hopefully, people see that.
I don't think we've ever mentioned that we're a Facebook group. I don't know. So, but
so who won the debate for you guys?
I did. I didn't want.
I feel like Hillary won. I mean, not because she, was better on the issues or had better talking points or anything. She just looked less stupid and shitty.
Right, but isn't that Trump's brand? The stupider he looks, the more people like him.
I don't know. It was working for a while, but I felt like the whole debate, I just really wanted him to dig into Hillary, and he didn't do it. I feel like, if anything, he gave a lot more ammo to all the people that are saying Trump is just in it to lose and chill for Hillary.
Yeah. I did like when he started going after Rosie O'Donnell for no reason, though.
Yeah, that was good. Well, wasn't the moderator the one that brought it up, though? I mean, the whole thing was rigged just to screw with Trump.
That's what it seemed like. Although, supposedly, according to all the polls except the CNN poll, Trump was voted the winner.
Yeah, well, there's a reason they're called the Clinton News Network.
Yeah.
I saw something as well that Hillary was signaling the moderator with one of these or whatever every now and then.
I saw an article on that, but I didn't read it. I'll have to go back and look at that. But I feel like that's probably reaching. Like, I could see it happening definitely, but I don't know. It's a little out there.
Wait, what was she doing?
Like just one of these little, do one of these.
Yeah, she had some kind of hand signals with the moderator, supposedly, to tell him what she wants from him.
And I saw that she apparently had a listening device of some sort.
I saw somebody post an image of that, but one of the comments on the image said that was from a different debate. So I don't know if she just wore the same outfit twice or what. I haven't really looked into that one yet.
I mean, really, though, if she was using something electronic, it would have been wireless. It would have been huge and all down.
Right.
I do have to say, I'm amazed. I didn't think she would be able to make it 90 minutes without having a seizure or something. And I did see Paul Joseph Watson said that, when she did her, little shake with her shoulders and went, woo, or some shit, she did it just a little too long, and he thinks that was her covering up a seizure.
Well, and then, what was it, that first Democratic debate where she had to go to the bathroom and was gone? Extra time.
Yeah, it was a coughing fit or something is what I had heard.
See, all I heard was that she said the women's bathroom was really far away or what, I don't know.
Yeah, she's full of shit.
Yeah, she was.
It's another gender discrimination thing.
Right.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I will say the best thing that she said throughout the whole debate was I really enjoyed it when she said something along the lines of Trump doesn't think a woman should make as much as a man does unless she works as hard as the man does.
Yeah, I was like, duh.
Yeah.
Isn't that how things work?
Well,
Not in Clinton's world. Not if you work for Clinton. Doesn't she only pay her female employees 70% of what she pays the men? Trump should have brought that up too.
Yeah, it's like worse than the national average.
Uh-huh.
Oh man, but what I was disappointed in the amount of memeable content. I think someone mentioned that in the group. But there was a few memes we made. I made a couple, but
Do you guys pay attention to Don't Meme on Me? Because that guy posted a lot of stuff, and it is all gold. It's absolutely hilarious.
Well, yeah, he's one that started the State is Not God group, isn't he?
I figured he was. I don't know who he is, though.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's Marko.
Oh,
Marko? Okay.
Marko.
Yeah, at least I think.
It is.
Yeah, I don't know who any of the admins for either page are. But, I mean, really, it's a libertarian group. There might as well not be admins.
Yeah. I know he also admins Liberty memes along with somebody else.
Oh, wow, that's a big one.
Yeah. And I don't know who the other person is with Liberty memes.
Yeah, I forgot who they were. But we need to get them to post this on Liberty memes, and we'll get a few more views.
Oh, yeah, we'd get a lot more views. I would definitely want to be more prepared with, like, set topics and all that, like, the week before, though, if we did that.
Oh, man, I think we're going to do good just like this. Just we've already come up with several minutes worth of content.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We're doing all right.
Minutes.
Several minutes. I mean,
I sometimes wonder, though, if posting the link to this on my Facebook is the smartest thing, considering I have a lot of work people on my Facebook. Oh, well.
Well, so that's actually why I made a page, so I could post stuff without being ruining my anonymity, because I sort of work in the tech sector, and most tech companies are not friendly to libertarian views.
I was able to keep quiet for almost a full year where I work, but, you know, the election season started, and now everybody knows almost exactly who I am, so, oh well. There's a decent chance my supervisor is watching this right now, but she's pretty cool. Hi, Judy.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm really open at work. I kind of just tell people, well, this is it. If you don't like it, whatever. I mean, I try to do a good enough job and I mean, I don't try to be rude about it, but.
Well, mainly for getting hired, just because people do check your social media profile. I thought I had it locked down when I got my last job, but apparently the guy who hired me said he found my Twitter account. But apparently they were all right-leaning there, pretty just normal Republican, but they liked what I was posting, so that was okay.
I went and deleted, I think, almost all of the tweets from my Twitter account for that very purpose. I don't use Twitter anyway. I had it for a while for work when I was doing game reviews for a magazine for a little while. That's all I ever used it for.
Yeah, I have a Twitter that I made because I started a blog site that I sometimes post on, and I made a Twitter to share those. But other than that, I've never really used Twitter. I'm not even completely sure how to use Twitter. I just I share those links. I think I've got that figured out, but I don't really mess with it too much other than that.
My grandmother is watching this, and she says we sound like a bunch of gays coming out of the closet or something, talking about work.
Hey, your grandma's really ragging on us then, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, we are the new
libertarian.
That's the thing. All the new old minorities are preferred at work, and now we're the new minority. Having traditional type views on politics makes us a minority. Sort of ostracized from the polite society.
Yeah, the left has just gotten, so crazy and authoritarian. You can't say anything they disagree with without being labeled a racist or a fascist.
And even Pepe the Frog is now a white supremacist symbol, which I thought he was just an internet meme. But because a couple white supremacists used him, now everyone's racist who knows who Pepe the Frog is.
Yeah, well, as far as I know, that's only really been recognized by Hillary and the ADL, and nobody cares about them anyway.
Right, but I mean, essentially, basically, if you listen to the wrong thing or have the wrong opinion, you're now it's now hate speech or a hate opinion. So now we're all racists in the eyes of the leftist elites.
Pretty much. Pretty much. That's why we should just go ahead and start blaming Jews for everything. I think that's the way to go.
Well, I mean, even according to Obama, everybody's racist.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're all racist. You know that was kind of insulting to get from a president. Like, you don't even know me, man. I mean,
he's been the most divisive piece of shit ever, and sometimes I can't tell if it's part of his plan working with Soros and all those fuckers, or if he's just that socially retarded, because it's not like he had a whole lot of experience before he became president.
Well, I imagine a good chunk of politicians are all socially retarded. I mean, they're so out of touch, especially in Washington, D.C. They have no idea what it's like for somebody in Omaha or Colorado or Oklahoma or anyway. They have no idea, just completely clueless.
I don't know. I mean, they're disconnected from us, but you can't be socially retarded and be a master manipulator like most politicians are. Like, I think those are kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Oxymoronic, maybe, or
oxymoronic, something like that.
Polar opposites.
Yeah. Mutually exclusive. Well, that's the phrase.
Yeah.
So along those lines, do you think sort of the way government is going now, leaning towards big government, do you think there is some kind of Alex Jones globalist conspiracy going on, or do you lean more towards it's just the incompetence of people and the desire for power that just leads to situations like this?
I can't prove it, and this is one of those things where I would definitely want to research before I talk too much on the subject, but I believe all roads lead to the Rothschilds. It's all about central banking and who wants to print everybody's currency and shit. That's what it comes down to. You have people like Soros too. He was trained in globalism from a very young age. Like, he's super indoctrinated, and I don't think he's evil. I think he really thinks what he's doing is right for the world, and there are a few of those too.
Yeah, I think it's hard to kind of say. I mean, to an extent, yeah. I mean, there's obviously a globalist agenda. If you look at the UN and they have that Agenda 21 or Agenda 2030, whatever it is now. And I mean, that's a legitimate thing. And you look at the things they're doing, and I mean, then you look at policies in small towns, and it kind of coincides with the Agenda 21 kind of stuff. But it seems so disorganized. It's like there's somebody trying to tell everybody how to do it, but most people can't even get their head out of their own ass to figure it out.
Well, yeah. So I definitely enjoyed listening to conspiracy theories just because it's fun, but.
Yeah.
But I guess this is a confession for me right now, but I actually worked for the federal government for about a year.
Get out. Get out.
So, yeah, but I mean, honestly, that's what led me to believing that government was not the answer to things, because
from the belly
just how I saw that portion of the government ran, I was like, if this is indicative of any other part of government, people are just idiots. And that's what's going on. They're just idiots, and they've learned the worse job you do, the more money you get. Because essentially, since the government isn't funded through a supply and demand type economy, it's funded through whoever needs the most gets the most. So you have to do the worst job to show that you need more than some other department or some other state.
I was talking to a friend about this the other night. I originally heard this joke from Chris Rock several years ago, where he said, there's no money in the cure for AIDS. There's money in the treatment. And it's the same thing with cancer, things they're never going to cure it. There's money in the research and the treatment. And we can all, even most statists can agree and laugh like, oh yeah, that's probably true. But then whenever you turn around and say, well, okay, what about the war on poverty, the war on drugs, the war on terrorism? There's no money in a solution in ending the war. There's money in the perpetuation of that.
And there's no
Absolutely.
power in resolving those. The power is kept by a state of emergency, always kept around. Let's get Nick in the conversation.
Was that Nick or was that Tim?
Oh, I don't know.
That was Tim.
That's Tim. Tim rolled up in here. How's it going?
What's up, man?
What are you talking about?
I saw a Nick show up. It said,
well, Nick was in here. He's having issues.
oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, we were talking about whether or not there's an actual like organized conspiracy to ruin the world, or if the world's just getting ruined because everyone's a bunch of idiots.
I don't know how much there. I'm sure there's some kind of conspiracy, but the world's just pretty shitty as it is. Human beings are shitty by nature.
Anything George Soros is involved in is absolutely a conspiracy, like automatically.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish we could show clips on this, because I don't know if you guys saw the clip of Obama speaking at the UN, but he basically said to the UN that we need to give up some freedom to act, I think is how he put it, some freedom to act in order to be part of a global society and for our own safety. Like, he legitimately said this out loud. Like, this wasn't on like Alex Jones making fun of him. So
sounds like
I mean,
he's been watching too much Star Trek.
Yeah, but I mean, I hear something like that where the president of supposedly the free world is telling people we need to give up our freedom in the name of the UN, and it's just amazing to me that other people don't see that and think something insane is going on.
Well, I mean, I think in a sense he's right that in order to join that, we would have to give up freedoms. Now it's just a matter of, do we need to join that? No, we don't, because of course freedom is more important. But yeah, it is disgusting even, to think that even somebody who's supposedly so educated in the Constitution and all these kinds of things, that he would even entertain the thought of giving up freedoms just to join the UN. And I don't really understand, how somebody, especially coming from the supposed, the supposed African American background, where, the black people have been so oppressed over so many, hundreds of years. Why would we want to further that oppression or expand that oppression, and make things even worse? Why would we not want to make people as free as possible? So, I mean, it doesn't really sound like that's much hope and change and all that stuff, just to join a global community.
The great thing about him saying idiotic things like that, though, is, it doesn't just piss off libertarians. It doesn't just piss off people in the United States. Idiots in high offices over here saying shit like that in a big global forum where everybody can hear it is how we get wonderful people like Milo Yiannopoulos and Paul Joseph Watson. Both of them have said many times, like, yes, we're British, but, you guys are like the last bastion of freedom, so we're going to defend you. We're going to speak to people on your behalf. Right.
In Europe, they have no-go zones because you can't actually go to places because there's no law, like there's no protection from the immigrants and stuff. They tell people don't go to those parts of town, and cops aren't allowed to go there.
Yep, I saw. Actually, that reminds me of an article I saw recently where SJWs were up in arms because China's been telling tourists that go to Britain to stay away from the areas that have a lot of Indian inhabitants. But, that's the way it is. If you go to those parts, there's a high chance of getting raped or robbed or whatever. It's just the truth.
Well, and, to go a little bit further on that subject, I was watching something on Netflix last night. I enjoyed looking into conspiracy theories as well. I mean, they're always interesting just to hear what they're about. And there was some TV series on Netflix actually titled something about conspiracies, but it was talking about the Nazi regime and how World War II, the Germans, went through and wreaked havoc on half of Europe and accumulated all this wealth. And then after the fall of the Third Reich, they still remained a superpower in Europe. And then a few decades later, the EU is born. And so now the EU is that one European government that the Nazis wanted. And Germany is a huge powerhouse in that government.
Right. It's very interesting to see that Angela Merkel can make decisions for like the Greek government, and they didn't have to fire one bullet to sort of rule over all of Europe.
If Hitler had called it the European Union and not killed any Jews, they would love him.
But at the same time, what he did necessary in order to get the EU? I mean, was that a stepping stone that had to be taken to get to that point?
If it hadn't been him,
Probably.
they would have found some other catastrophe.
Before World War II, the countries in Europe were so individualistic. I don't know if World War II had happened if you would have the EU.
Yeah, and you send armed Nazis through half the country, and anybody that opposes gets put in a death camp. Suddenly, it's a lot easier to put a centralized government in place.
Yep,
that's true. I don't know. That reminds me of the arguments I've heard from a lot of the Remain people back when the Brexit vote was happening. Is they're saying, "Oh, the EU is so great because we haven't had any wars between European countries since we started the EU." But come on, guys, if you need that to not kill each other, that's a problem.
Well, how many of them could have afforded war?
Right? That's a good point. That is a good point.
Without us subsidizing.
Yeah, right. Without us there. I mean, they couldn't even afford to defend themselves without the U.S.
Which is one thing, I think Donald Trump's right on. We got to stop being everybody's military, or at least make them pay us for it.
I feel like he does want to be paid for it, though. I'd rather just not do it.
Yeah. I'd rather not police the world at all than become a private police force.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Not doing it all is the best solution, but I wouldn't mind making some profit off of it too much.
Well, there is some made. I mean, it's by the private companies that, like the Lockheed Martins and all this. I mean, like that recent deal with Israel where we gave so many billions of dollars to turn around and sign contracts with Lockheed Martin. So yeah, that might come back.
So I was going to say the other thing that happened at the UN this past week was some kind of council organized of different dictatorships decided that the U.S. owed African Americans reparations for what I think it was called racial terrorism from slavery. The UN the UN has decided that the U.S. must pay reparations.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead and continue. I just wanted to make sure.
I mean, that's it. I mean, I wish I wish we had like the video clips of this stuff, but yeah, just go look it up. I mean, yeah, we have to pay. The UN, who rapes children in Africa, is telling us that we owe reparations for racial terrorism.
Yeah.
If something like that actually happened and we started paying reparations, I would probably go full on Milo and just become the most offensive motherfucker ever, because I am 2% Nigerian. I've got the DNA test to prove it, so I will start screaming racism when I don't get my Gibbs.
The one you owe it all. It's just there's no way to stop it,
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the whole reparations thing, it's, America, I mean, the laws back, a couple hundred years ago, or even, 50 years ago or whatever, they were oppressive. I mean, they were not fair to people of color. And we have changed that since. But at the same time, you can't. The unfortunate thing is any reparations would really be funded by the working people. And it was, even back in those days, it wasn't the working people oppressing people of color. It was slave owners and political powers and things like that. I mean, all the Jim Crow era laws and things like that, those were exactly that. They were laws. They were government. They were not people. They weren't even.
They were Democrats.
Right. Well, yeah, I wasn't going to go that far, but yeah, they were. I mean, no matter what, it was government. It wasn't the working people. And whenever you go to reparations or any kind of government funding whatsoever, you're only robbing the people. I mean, I don't know how much I've benefited from, anything that happened before my time. And I mean, from what I've looked back, back in my ancestry, my family wasn't even here during slavery. My family immigrated here after slavery, and so it's not like I'm really, I didn't have a whole lot to do with that. And even still, the people that would receive the reparations nowadays, that they weren't there either. Systematic oppression is one thing, but reparations, for slavery or whatever, that's kind of something that it's unfortunate. I just don't see it being a legitimate solution, or I don't even know. I don't know what it would solve.
By the way, saying you had nothing to do with slavery is considered racial microaggression.
Okay, here I can be the most racial microaggression of the bunch. I might be the only one in the group right now that has the genealogical proof that my ancestors did own slaves, but guess what? I still didn't have anything to do with it. Get over it.
I don't think any of my ancestors owned slaves, but I did have one that fought against Lincoln, so I guess that counts.
Well, I had six that fought, and one that was a prisoner of war 6 times and signed the paperwork swearing he would never raise up arms again and just kept doing it. So apparently he was a liar.
Wow.
Well, that's just that whole collectivist mindset. We need to get away from collectivism as a whole. It's not all white people that act a certain way. It's not all black people that act a certain way. It's individuals that do the things.
And I think Dinesh D'Souza had one of the best sort of rebuttals to this. He says, I'll paraphrase, he says something to the effect of, how far back do we go with government oppression for certain minorities? So should we pay reparations to African Americans? Okay, yes. Should we pay reparations then to Native Americans? And then who do we pay them to? So for instance, do we pay to the Lakota, who they stole the land from the Apache? So do we pay to them? And then who do they pay to? So just because there's been bloodshed and warfare in the past does not mean that anyone in the current day is entitled to anything. And so, do we get reparations from the French because they invaded
You'll end up where we're paying reparations to Britain for freeing ourselves.
Right, exactly. And then, does everyone have, or does Italy have to pay reparations to everyone because of the Roman Empire?
Well, and then you have the Huns too. Don't forget the Huns back then that destroyed.
Yeah,
Rome.
They better pay me.
Yeah, so they probably owe Rome. Yeah, you're right. Where does it end?
Reparations and say that's good enough.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'll always find weird, or I don't know, when like Trump said that he doesn't have a problem destroying the houses of the terrorists with their families in it, and then everybody's like, well, you can't blame the families had nothing to do with it. And then they're like, but you owe reparations for what your great grandparents did. I'm like, get a little more backward.
Right. That's a good point.
Obama's mulatto, so does he have to pay reparations to himself?
I don't know. Is using the word mulatto racist?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Just know that everything you do is racist. So.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care anymore. Like, call me racist, and I'll just laugh because that word means nothing now.
And that really, that's unfortunate because it's thrown around so much that any actual meaning to it is taken away. And so now, if somebody actually is racist, if something that actually is racist that happens, it's a crying wolf. It's hard to point out.
Well, and not to mention, so many programs that are meant to benefit certain minorities are racist themselves. Like
affirmative action.
Well, yeah, that and especially like a lot of the welfare system is designed to sort of destroy poor families. And, because if you make over a certain amount, or if you have a husband at home, you're not going to get as much money from the government.
Right.
So they incentivize broken homes, which sadly has affected racial minorities more than any other group. But for some reason, that's not considered racist because it has a good intention.
Well, at least perceived good intention, right?
Right, even though the outcome is racist.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been nothing worse for black people than welfare. If we could just get rid of all the handouts, like that alone would do a lot for the black community. Once they're forced to actually, pull their bootstraps up and join the rest of society, I think things would be a lot better.
Well, if you take into consideration how much that costs us, which granted, the majority of our federal budget and things like that is on war. But I mean, eliminating taxes altogether allows for more money to be spread throughout the economy, throughout the market, and that affects unemployment alone. And then of course you get rid of the war on drugs and things like this, which I mean really are targeted towards the lower income and minority groups. I mean you have the entire system is just poised against, and I don't even want to say minorities alone because white trash gets into it just as much, and and that's what really I really hate is there's so much divide between these different ethnic groups whenever really they're all being attacked by the same body, yet we're taught to be divided. Well,
and yeah, a lot of this racial divide in the country I think serves to sort of keep our eye off the target. There's too many people that are, I guess, thinking, oh, the problem is this specific race or that specific race, when really the problem has always come and will always come from government power.
I think there's a class war brewing and somebody's trying to start a race war to keep the class war from starting. That's what it really seems like to me.
Yeah, there's been a class war brewing since the 1860s. I mean, since Karl Marx's time. Mm-hmm. And, and it really goes to show if you look at the whole 1% Occupy movement that was recent, where we're told that we're supposed to hate the rich. I mean, I'm not a rich person by any means. I'm nowhere near that 1%er, but I don't hate somebody just for having more money than me. And it's we're just taught for whatever reason to not like these people just because they have more money. Now we're fed these reasons that they didn't earn it. Well, you don't know that. I mean, yeah, there are some that are shysty and they're cronies, and I don't like those people either. But I don't think that we need to just, rob an entire group just for the actions of a few. And then that goes into even that, I don't know if you guys have seen that post by We Are Capitalists that explains that the 1% lie, that was all based off of a single report by the Oxfam Group that was a projection that it was made in 2012, and then they projected that by 2014 that 1% of the global economy would own 99% of the income, and that was only a projection, which was still crazy off anyway. And then now we've moved it to the United States whenever it was made for the global economy. And so it doesn't scale down just because it fits one size. You can't just scale it down. But yeah, I mean, we're fed into this, and it's so easy to hate another group for our own problems. And I think they're really taking advantage of that.
Yeah, during the whole Occupy Wall Street thing, I was in college, and I was in a American government class, and we were sort of having a debate on the 1% and how unfair it is. The professor was a huge liberal, and I basically told the whole class, I'm like, I think if there is a billionaire who has made every dollar that they own through voluntary action, they are by and large more moral than a poor person who has lived off the government welfare and has stolen from the pockets of other people. And
you were loved in that class.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Yeah, you are correct, but I can't think of a single person who's incredibly rich that isn't a piece of shit and didn't do shit.
Well, and that's the issue. Money. That's the issue is most rich people get there by using government force and coercion. There are very few businessmen that actually try to make something for themselves.
Well, I mean, even the ones that are. Oh, go ahead.
Well, okay, and you say all the sorry, and you say all the billionaires that I know of are assholes, but you got to think the only billionaires that you know are the ones that you see on TV every day. How many are there out there that you never see, that you never know? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's plenty, and I'm not saying they're all assholes. I'm just saying the only ones I can think of
I know
are,
you're
yeah, even the ones that aren't cronies. Like take Bill Gates for example. I don't think he ever colluded with the government for any advantages or anything. But he totally ripped off Steve Jobs. He totally ripped off Xerox. He did shady fucking shit to get where he is.
Well, yeah, but he took advantage of the free market. I mean, intellectual property. Why would they need protectionism if they can't do a good job? If Steve Jobs couldn't do the same job that Bill Gates did, why should the market be? Why should the market suffer from not having the best product?
as much as Bill Gates is a socialist douche.
Yeah, right.
The fact that the government tried to shut him down for monopoly gives him a little plus on the business side, in my opinion, that he must have been doing something right and not colluding with the government, because I would assume that the main reason they did that was because he wasn't paying off the right people.
Probably.
Oh yeah.
Well, and there's
Probably.
also the
whole
fact
thing
that he
was
turned
stupid.
a small armpit of California into what it is today, like the economic powerhouse of Silicon Valley, basically single-handedly. I mean, whether or not he's a huge socialist idiot, I mean, at least he
Kind of
created
a
something.
little bit.
I think Bill Gates is somebody who definitely harms the world through good intentions more than just about anybody, because if you're of the opinion that a lot of our problems are because the world's overpopulated, this dude's saving more lives than anybody, so that's definitely not a good thing. And he's saving the lives of the people who breed the most.
He can preach how good the government is all he wants to, but I don't see him donating an extra $20 billion on his tax return.
Well, I mean, and it just really goes back to, yeah. So it's the cronies that are usually the ones that get that money without actually earning it. And I mean, that's where I agree with these Occupy movement people. They don't want. I mean, none of us want the people that don't earn their money or get their money dishonestly. We don't want them to have their money. But I think the best solution is, let's remove the government from the equation, and those people won't produce anything. They won't have any money.
Right.
There
It's
you
so
go.
odd to me when you hear an Occupy person talking about, I hate all this government cronyism, and, the government is colluding with business people. And then they say, and it's like, well, how do you think it gets fixed? And they say, well, we need the government to be bigger so that they can stop the business people from getting us. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm pretty sure government is part of the problem here.
Well, I guess it really is just, well, if we get the right people in government, then things will happen. But the right,
They believe in a savior.
Those right people don't desire that position, and they're not going to be in there. That power is just going to attract the wrong people, and that's the way it's just going to be. It always is. So yeah, you give the government power, and eventually it's going to be in the hands of people you don't want to have that power, especially in a democratic society.
My wife said we shouldn't go as long as we did last week.
I
got to hop off here too.
Oh,
Well,
30 minutes or so. I don't care. However long you guys want to go, I don't care.
I got nothing to do. But anyway,
Well, I got to jump off, and I'll be catching it on the YouTube, okay? Y'all have a good one.
All right,
cool,
see you.
thank you.
All
right. Any good memes of late?
I don't even know. I haven't really been online much this week, so.
Just the ones I mentioned from Don't Meme on Me, all the ones that are like the stencil of Clinton or Trump's face next to something they said in the debate. Those were all gold. But other than that, it's been mostly shit posts, reposts, all that good stuff.
Well, what have you guys seen in the news recently that just blew your mind?
Oh man, you know what? I'm gonna check Vote right now as we're doing this, and I'm sure I'll find something. I read so many news articles every day, and then don't remember them like as soon as I finish reading them.
Yeah, I've got
How about the Senate override on Obama's veto for the Sue the Saudis bill? How do you guys feel about that?
Yay.
Yeah,
You should be able to sue anyone you want, I feel like.
Yeah. I don't really know how that works. So how do you sue another country? I mean,
Yeah, I don't get how that works either. It seems like it's not something that's actually feasible, but I think the gesture is nice.
I get, yeah, like will you send them a subpoena to like report to a court in Iowa or what? I don't even know how that works.
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
Here. I don't know.
But yeah, I guess Bush did 9/11. I don't know.
Well, you know, and
British,
that
the Saudis and Israel, it was all one big false flag.
well, but one thing you do have to worry about though is, so if the victims of 9/11 sue Saudi Arabia, who foots the bill? I mean, you know, the Saudi king and the Saudi government, they're not really going to they're not going to pay it. It's going to be the Saudi people, and I don't believe the Saudi people, you know, organized 9/11. I don't think they voted on it or however they would do it. So that's unfortunate. Is that really it's going to be the Saudi people footing the bill for that? And I mean, yeah, I guess somebody owes some restitution there, but I don't know how you would do that.
But I guess the main objection to it is whether or not basically that ruins our relationship with the Saudis or something like that. Like it's a question of international relations. But I guess I sort of want our relationship with the Saudis to be ruined, because right now we're funding them fighting Iranians in Yemen. And I'm like, I don't get why we're doing that.
They've done nothing wrong. They have nothing to hide, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't that how it works?
I'm pretty sure they have things to hide, though.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I'm not even sure how anything can really go forward without, you know, actually like giving us documents that expose what really happened and such. Like it all seems like bread and circus.
And you know, I don't know if that does good for the American people or not. I mean, if all the documents were, if everything was exposed and it turns out that our government did collude with Saudi Arabia to do this, what would the reaction be? You know, I mean,
I bet it would be a shrug of the shoulders.
Most likely. I mean, what are people going to do about something like that other than violent revolution? And that's not going to happen until people are starving.
I doubt 90% of Americans could point at Saudi Arabia on a map.
Probably not.
Well,
Hell, I can't.
It's right there next to Somalia. You don't know?
I'm awful at geography. I can't even point out all 50 states.
Oh man. Well, I mean, you know, even if there was a violent revolution, I don't support the idea of a violent revolution, especially not right now. I don't think anything good would come of it. I don't think, you know, the American people right now, if they revolted against the government now, I mean, you know, 10, 15 years from now, whenever it's all over, they're just going to start the same thing, probably worse than what the original in 1776 was created.
My opinion is, as long as Ron Paul writes the new Constitution, I'm down.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it. Yeah, I honestly think, I mean, because people right now don't understand concepts of freedom and liberty.
Right.
I don't know, you know, yeah, back in, you know, the founding fathers, they were a small group. I don't know what the general masses knew about freedom and liberty. You know,
well, the difference between today and back then is back then there was an organization. They had made a constitutional Congress, which would essentially be an extra governmental organization made by the colonists, because it wasn't at all related to the British government. So they had made their own infrastructure, their own organization. And so that made it so when they did, topple their oppressors, like has been happening in the Middle East, there was something to replace it. The idea that just getting rid of tyranny will just automatically bring in freedom, I don't necessarily know is true.
Yeah, you're right on that.
And that is an interesting point. So I don't guess that's what's been happening in the Middle East whenever they do topple these regimes. They don't have it all organized beforehand. It's always, yeah, America's like, yeah, we'll help you kill them, and then we'll worry about getting it all set up later on. And then they're all in a hurry trying to figure it out. And during the power vacuum, something else happens, and now you have this brand new government that can't even protect, can't even fight what the other government that's already formed, you know?
Yeah, but then also I think to myself, the idea of an anarchist organization is oxymoronic, to throw back to earlier. Like, it's sort of hard to say we should have. I mean, even the Libertarian Party, in my opinion, is sort of useless because the idea of individualism is sort of anathema to the idea of a party. So it's just, it doesn't really jive, and that's why I think we get such horrible candidates out of the Libertarian Party.
Oh man, I don't have a good explanation for why we have such horrible candidates, but you know, Michael Badnarik wasn't that bad. So it seems like something happened after him, and it's just been shit ever since. And I would like to know what that one thing is that happened.
Well, I don't think all the candidates this time around, you know, for the nomination, I don't think they were all bad.
Right.
He wasn't bad. Daryl Perry wasn't bad.
Daryl Perry is amazing, but that man is not presentable.
Well, exactly. You know, like I was listening to him talking, like, man, that guy's great. I said, you know, like I always tell my friends, like, yeah, this guy's a lot like me, but it'd be like putting me in the White House, and I don't think that's a good idea. You know what I mean? Like, you put
well,
me
like yesterday, I registered to vote. Actually, I was like, I guess I'll vote, but so it said pick a party, and I was like, you know, I feel like I should do Republican so I can vote in those primaries, but then I'm like, you know, I don't want to. And so I was like, maybe I'll do Libertarian because then I can like be a part of something bigger than myself. But then I'm like, yeah, they're all idiots. And so I was just like, all right, I'm independent. Let's do it.
Well, I think the real revolution would just be, I mean, people are just going to have to realize that it's all just smoke and mirrors. And when people stop legitimizing it, that's whenever I think you'll see a genuine revolution. You know, if we just stop saying, yeah, the president is the most powerful person in the world, whatever. No, they're not. There's nothing magical about them. They're just a person.
Sort of pulling the curtain back from the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, and I think as more and more people realize that and start to really recognize how illegitimate the whole system is. I mean, even our system today, it's only there. It only draws its authority because we think it does. You know, the Constitution is just a group of 20 guys that wrote on a piece of paper, like this is what the rules are. I mean, if you really think about that, then and you take away all the magic, mystical stuff from it, like, oh, we have to have law, sure, but just natural law, you know, just be good to each other, don't violate each other's rights. I mean, you don't really need anything beyond that.
Although the thing is, I am sort of, you know, I am pretty pro-Constitution, just in the fact that I sort of believe in by their fruits you shall know them. So, just the fact that the Constitution did bring the level of freedom it did to our country, and not only to our country, but every single other country that has now based their Constitution off of ours has drastically more freedom than they had back in the day, where they were living in monarchies. But, you know, so the document that did work in bringing some amount of freedom to people, I don't know if some other system or anything would do the same job, or just trusting that everyone would believe in the non-aggression principle, even though they probably wouldn't.
Well, the non-aggression principle, honestly, and I know I'm going to lose some points for this, I think it's stupid anyway. It can only work in Ancapistan because if you have taxation, you're violating the NAP. Like, the NAP is just dumb and shouldn't exist.
Well, what about voluntary taxation?
I don't think that would be enough to pay for anything, and if it's voluntary, it's not taxation.
Well, they did it in Colorado Springs. They kept voting because there's a lot of libertarian-leaning people out in Colorado.
Yeah,
they kept voting the city government to have less and less tax revenue, to the point where the mayor was like, okay, I'm going to teach them a lesson. We're going to turn off all the streetlights, end all the garbage collection. And if they want it back, they're going to have to call and pay their portion to have it happen. So basically, a guy in the neighborhood would call and be like, why is my street light off? And they're like, well, it's off because taxes are too low. And then they said, okay, how do I get it back on? And they could send them directly to the private contractors to turn on their street light individually. There's a whole NPR podcast on this. I'll try to link it later on in the group, but they basically explain how people actually, like the mayor thought she was getting these people by saying, haha, now you look at all the problems you've caused, but actually they were all happy and they all like congratulated her and thought she was the best mayor ever.
That's amazing. I lived there up until like 2 years ago. I only stayed 6 months now. I kind of regret leaving a little bit.
So to go back on the Constitution, now I didn't mean to take away from like how great the Constitution was. I mean, it was a well thought out document, and that, you know, originally I think it was a really, really good idea. And I think that idea is a stepping stone to get to total freedom and total liberty. And I mean, it doesn't provide liberty for all, even though it kind of hints that it does, and it kind of lays the track for that. Mm-hmm. But
I guess I'm sort of involved in the anti-con, which is the Constitutional Convention of the states, what that a lot of people are trying to do to get a balanced budget amendment. So I'm sort of involved in that. That's why I'm like, I don't know if we should mess with the Constitution in the state we're in right now. Like, we first need to get people who will obey this document, because why would they obey any other document?
So yeah, the Constitutional Convention movement, I mean, there are checks and balances in that whole process to even avoid any kind of screwy amendments to even be applied. But I don't think that it makes a difference either way. I mean, even the original document as it sits, they're not following anyway. I mean, you know, that goes back to the whole idea that either the Constitution was meant to set up our current system, or it was powerless to stop it, one way or the other. But I do think originally, yes, it was a great idea and it was a great concept.
Well, and I think there is a third option to that quote, although it's not in the quote, I'm adding it. I think the third option is that the culture has changed to the point that people don't value the things they used to value. And so once people learned they could vote themselves money, that sort of changed the whole deal in the Constitution.
Well, and that goes to just having politicians in general. That's democracy, you know, which democracy is the most, I don't know of a form of government that provides available freedom to the people, you know, more so than democracy, short of anarchy, the total absence of government. But even still with democracy, people are going to vote for whatever benefits them the most. You know, they're not going to worry about other people. They're only going to worry about themselves.
Well, I'm pretty anti-democracy, but yeah, because I mean, I think the Constitution never mentions the word democracy.
Yeah, so it's a republic, but
right. And I mean, I guess sort of where I'm coming from, like, I see a lot of posts in the group, and, you know, maybe I'm getting in trouble for this. You know, I'll lose a couple points, but, you know, I see stuff that's, you know, let's get rid of the Constitution, let's get rid of all this stuff, and no government is the best, which is sort of what I've been doing lately, just because I think the government's so big, I need to shrink it down with anarchy, because that's like the antidote. And so I have been supporting anarchist type things. But I think, in general, I think, you know, what level of government is acceptable? What is a proper role of a government? Or is it best just to have no government whatsoever? So I read an article sort of explaining what I call sort of frontier justice, which is, you know, the first most legitimate form of government is a sheriff. When a bunch of farmers live in the same place, they don't want to spend all their time defending their property against wolves and Indians and that kind of stuff. So they hire a sheriff. They hire one of the farmers to work full time defending their property. And I mean, I don't know, is that even an acceptable form to us in the group, or are we against that level of government? Like, how far can we go?
Well, I mean, first of all, man, it's whatever you want. I mean, it really doesn't matter what the group thinks. But I mean, that would just be private security. I mean, that's the same thing. But so
that's what sheriffs were back in the Wild West, as it were. Yeah.
Well, so whenever I look at anarchy, I mean, I've only recently just kind of taken the plunge from minarchy to anarchy. I mean, just, a few months ago, I was, kind of about where you are right now with that. And I mean, the more I think about it, and the more I think about what it means to have liberty and rights, you can't have a government without violating the rights of somebody. And if you're violating the rights of somebody for the benefit of others, that's not an equal society. That means that one group of people is superior to another. And I don't know of a current form of government that actually, maintains the rights and liberties of everybody equally, but it's still a government, And it's not that I'm, just anarchy or bust. It's just that I don't know of anything else. So which is more important? Is it liberty or anarchy, or having government? And why do we need government then?
Right, but how could you live in a system free of all rules if not everyone is moral? And maybe not moral. Moral might not be the best thing because it might connotate sort of religious type stuff, but just decent in a way. How can we assume that our neighbor's not going to break into our house in a free society? Do you? Well, without having some minimal form of government that's answerable to the people.
But does government really prevent that now?
Well, in a way, technically there are. I wouldn't use now as the best thing, but I mean, I would use sort of that minimalist form of government where you hire a sheriff. Like, you need some sort of recourse for defense of your property. That and there are weak among the people. Not that, we could go totally survival of the fittest, I guess, and that's fine. But
yeah, but first of all, though, I mean, you don't have a right to be safe. I mean, that's something a lot of people confuse. There's no such thing as a right to safety. It's not natural.
But you have a right to property and your own life.
That's true. Yeah, and you have the right to defend that property, and you do have to. You have to count on your neighbors to not violate those rights. But
if you have the right to defend your own property, wouldn't you have the ability to delegate that right?
You absolutely do. But then you go into government, so government has to be funded somehow. So now are we going to fund police and security privately?
Well, honestly, I think with the technology the way it is now, with Kickstarter, with all that stuff, I think we could run government totally on a voluntary taxation basis, because I think there is a value to some type of security force to protect from certain types of enemies. And I think there's a value to, and maybe even, let's get a road in there. I'm not all about roads, but maybe some people see a value, so you can go on your government Kickstarter and say, yeah, I want to pay to this road.
Well, yeah, but you can have those things without government. Though you don't have to have government to have those things. You can have.
Right. I think you're going to have government if you want a decent standard military. Like, Ancapistan's not going to have enough people that want to go fight, or probably even enough money. Like, period. Well, like, I can see minarchism, but total anarchy is a little much for me.
Ayn Rand says that she would voluntarily pay taxes to a. To pay for a military because she sees a value to that.
Oh yeah, I think people definitely will. I'm dubious that you would get enough money.
Well, but so here's the thing, though. I mean, you can have crowdfunded militaries, crowdfunded police, you can crowdfund things a lot, like you said with Kickstarter. You don't have to have government to do that. You just have to have whichever one's the most popular. Whichever one's going to do the best job. I'm not saying that there's no value in those things,
right?
But the thing is whenever you have a government in place to make laws and enforce these laws, then...
Well, and I guess, let's say we created our Ancapistan military through Kickstarter, right? Then who keeps them in check? Who tells them what to do or not to do? Do we just have 1,000 voices vote on what they do? Because that seems pretty inefficient,
I don't really know. That's a thing that, like,
that's why I say government. Now, I think it should be totally answerable to the individual is the thing, and it shouldn't be allowed to violate basic rights to life, liberty, and property. But, I guess that's where I'm coming from. I guess you could call it a government or you can call it private, but you know, that I've just been thinking, being in this group, you know, what is the level of government I would accept, or some kind of governance, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's really the thing. And it's not, like, as I said earlier, it's not that I'm totally against the entire idea of a government at all. It's just any current system that we have in place doesn't support an equal society. So even, okay, so maybe we do need national defense. Maybe, you know, maybe we do need all these things. Can we do it without violating the rights of other people? And if we cannot, so which is more important? Is our need to be safe more important than the rights of a few? Or you know, where do you draw the line, and how's the line drawn? And you know, it's just that I mean, I can't come up with the best answers as a replacement either. But I mean, just because I see problems with the current setup, does that mean I'm, you know, me personally, it's up to me to replace it? I mean, I can't.
Right. Well, and once again, I guess that's why 1776 hasn't commenced again, as Alex Jones wants. But
and I don't know, maybe a group of guys much smarter than any of us could get together and come up with all these ideas. I don't know. I mean,
and I thought they did it back in 1780 or so.
But... for.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I'm just saying, right now, from everything I've heard of, voluntary society is the best way to go. Do I think we could implement it tomorrow and it be totally hunky-dory? No.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would take decades before, you know, people would even get used to that, and, you know, we weren't murdered in the streets all the time or whatever.
Yeah, I guess that's where, like, me personally, I do come from a religious background. I see a value to religion in the fact that I think a voluntary society could work, but only with a moral people, only with a people that care about other people's rights.
I agree with you on that. However, you know, even those good people can have children that turn out to be little shit, so you'd probably only be good for a generation.
Right. But I mean, I guess I see a need to teach morality, not to force it, but to value it.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you know, morals can come from anywhere. I mean, they normally come from religious backgrounds, but I mean, morals are always there.
Right, and I'm mainly saying just personally myself, you know, I'm not saying there's not moral atheists or moral agnostics, you know, I'm sure there are, but I mean, I guess I see room for that philosophy, I guess.
But I mean, really, to me, it seems, and once again, I'm going to blame the same old government boogeyman, but whenever it comes to demoralizing, I look towards, you know, public schooling and everything, demoralizing more than anything. Public schooling and the propaganda and all that. I really think that, you know, if you leave it up to the people, I think more people would be moral. I think there's more morality out there than you think.
Well, yeah, one of my buddies would always say, like, he doesn't get why in Mad Max everyone just starts killing each other immediately. Like, why isn't it, you know, like, hey, we're neighbors, why are we going to kill each other? Or like The Purge, like, they don't think everyone's just going to kill everyone up all at once.
Yeah, I mean,
I've been killing some people in The Purge, I'm not going to lie.
Well, and you know, and that kind of goes to, like, you know, I've heard theories that, you know, we live in anarchy every day. You know, we don't need, you know, the fear of being thrown in a cage to not kill anybody. You know, we don't want to kill anybody. You know, we don't steal people's stuff. You know, even though you could probably get away with it. I mean, most of these crimes go unsolved anyway, so you could probably get away with doing most of the stuff anyway, but you don't do it.
So I actually lived in the closest thing to an anarchy I've ever seen for about 2 years. So I'm Mormon. I served a Mormon mission. I went to Paraguay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Paraguay has a lot of laws. They're actually the most right-leaning country in South America. But it's such an ineffective government that they cannot enforce those laws. So essentially, there are no laws. So, like, there's a lot of laws against poaching, but a lot of my buddies went out and hunted jaguar and alligator, and like, you can buy jaguar skin anywhere you want, even though it's illegal. Like, just no one cares. So, yeah, I lived in an anarchy, and that's where I was like, you know, I actually feel free here. I feel freer than I do in the United States because I can do whatever I want. Now, the downside to it was I did get shot at by an old guy. It's a whole long story, but basically he didn't like us. He thought we were the devil. And so he shot at us with a revolver, 6 shots straight at me and the other guy I was with. I ran from him. I did the zigzag because I heard you're supposed to zigzag. But anyway, I actually had just baptized into the church the chief of police of that area. And I was like, hey, man, like this guy just shot at us. Can you do something? And he's like, yeah, I'll go talk to him. And I like followed up and he's like, yeah, I talked to him. He said he won't do it again. And that's all that happened. I'm like, he tried to kill me. Like bullets whizzed by my head.
Well, did he shoot at you again?
What's that?
Did he shoot at you again?
No, he actually didn't. But I thought I saw him one time in the night, and I just took off running. I ended up tripping over something and getting all muddy. And I was with another guy who hadn't got shot at the first time, and he was like, "Why were you running?" And I'm like, "Oh, I thought it was this guy that tried to kill me." So, but anyway, I'm saying I feel like that's why I'm saying I think a sheriff might not be a bad thing to have, because I think if you try to shoot someone, there should be some kind of punishment.
Well, and that's a thing where I kind of get conflicted as well. I mean, beyond a sheriff, I mean, you kind of do need some sort of court system or something, and it's hard to conceive what that would look like without a government. And I mean, and part of it is, you see a lot of anarchists, especially on the Facebook, where they get all keyboard warrior, and they always want to come up with solutions. Like if we have private roads, you'd pay tolls and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, they might have great extravagant ideas, but the real truth is they have no idea what it would look like without government. I mean, none of us do. I mean,
Yeah, I definitely agree we have way too much. That's why I said, like, I've basically been telling people I'm an anarchist now just because, I see it as a necessary, like you need the opposite. We're so big, you need the smaller option. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm open-minded to whatever is possible. I mean, I think options are really limitless whenever you allow people to come up with their own solutions. I mean, who knows? Maybe a sheriff, small sheriff and local governments, several local municipal governments is the best solution.
Right.
I don't know.
Or a judge that's accountable to someone, and maybe a mayor of some kind.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it is, but here's the great thing: without a huge government weighing over everybody, you would see several different experiments happening all at once, and the best solution would show up. I mean, that would be applying free market concepts to it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and this guy I follow, Cody Wilson, the guy who did the 3D printed gun, he says, like, it's basically the crumble of the state is already happening. Look at Chicago, look at Puerto Rico, look at Greece and Europe. Like, it's already happening where people are sort of disregarding what government says anyway and just living. So,
yeah.
Anarchy is now.
And I think that's the revolution that needs to happen. I mean, we just need to kind of just disregard them. I mean, do what we want.
Mm-hmm. And he has the view that the government's just going to get so large to a point that it can't sustain itself, and it'll just crumble and go bankrupt like it has in the big leftist cities of America. It's sort of a precursor to what's going to happen across America.
I mean, I'm honestly surprised that the U.S. dollar hasn't collapsed yet. I mean, they always say it's going to happen at any time, and I mean, I guess I'm no economist, but it really seems like it should be coming up any time. I don't know how long it's going to be. I know they keep putting Band-Aids on that to keep it pushed a little bit further down the road. But I mean,
can't they just print more money?
Well, yeah, right. But eventually, we're going to have to use wheelbarrows to go buy a soda pop or something. I mean, but I know we have all these programs nowadays where we're really we're pushing the debt onto future generations. Those future generations, there's no way they're going to be able to pay all this. And so now it's just a matter of, I mean, how far do we push it until it eventually just falls?
So I've got maybe one last question. What do you guys think, what is the outcome an anarchist wants to see in November 8th? Who do we want to see come out on top?
I don't think an anarchist wants to see anybody get elected, but
I mean, but it's going to happen. So who do we want to see, whether you vote for him or not?
I'm voting for Gary Johnson. I fucking hate him. I think he's a stupid piece of shit and he's inarticulate. And there's nothing good I can say about him. But I'm hoping the Libertarian Party pulls in record numbers and will take that momentum into 2020 with a better candidate. Realistically, though, I hope Trump beats Hillary because I just can't stand her. I really can't.
I can say I'm indifferent. I don't plan on voting. So I mean, I did at one point I was ready to stand behind the Libertarian candidate, and then really towards the end of the Libertarian primaries, where Austin Peterson, I did not like Austin Peterson at all, but man, he really brought Gary Johnson out, out in the open, and so I was really disappointed to see Gary Johnson get the nomination as it was. I mean, I was going for McAfee, but.
I like McAfee, but he just always seemed like, I don't know, he gave me a spaced out hippie vibe and is just kind of a turn off for me, but he was a good
just murdering too many people in Costa Rica.
Oh yeah, he didn't do that. He didn't.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
But yeah, so now with Trump, at least I know most of his promises are bogus. I mean, he's not going to build a wall. He's not going to. No. I would be really surprised if he actually sends armed men through every city in America looking for illegal immigrants. I'd be surprised if he actually can pull off stop and frisk nationwide.
I hope not.
But
I'm thinking, I think he might be able to stop the TPP. That's one I care about.
Yeah.
He might, and then the main thing, I think, if Trump wins, he'll get at least a couple Supreme Court picks, maybe at least one, and hopefully they'll be pro-Second Amendment. That's the most I can hope for. Let's at least keep that freedom.
He's not pro-Second Amendment, though, so I mean...
No, he's not, but he might just pick a right-leaning judge that is, just out of pure chance. Who knows what he's actually thinking.
There's a better chance of him doing it than Hillary.
Right. If Hillary wins, the majority of the court goes liberal, and all these 5-4 decisions that came out in the past few years are going to be revisited and say goodbye to so many freedoms just because, like we've said earlier, the Constitution has been ignored to the point that the judicial branch can make law now.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, that is what I see as the most important. So my best case scenario for November is Gary Johnson gets 15%. Trump gets the win and picks some Supreme Court picks. Then next election, one of the parties will realize we better get on that liberty train to get those votes, get that 15%. And maybe we'll get a candidate like a Rand Paul or some type like that at least reins in government a little bit more.
Well, but then you got to look at, almost think about the brutalist view as well, that Hillary does get in and puts far left-wing Supreme Court justices in there, and so they start doing all the legislating from the bench, all this stuff. The American people get pissed off, and then you finally start to see the revolution that we need.
Yeah, but there's no recourse with the Supreme Court is the only thing. The damage will be done for the next 50 or so years.
The states can ignore the Supreme Court, and the sooner they realize
nullification.
Some of them are starting to realize that, but the sooner they realize how little power the federal government legitimately has.
Yeah, but the last time the states tried to ignore the federal government, didn't we go to war or something?
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But I don't know. I don't know that it would work out the same way this time around.
Yeah, I don't either. But yeah, I don't know. What else you guys got? I think this is a good point to go out on. I'm done if you guys got anything else to share.
No, I think that's about it. I just want to say fuck Gary Johnson. That's about it.
All right, well.
Yeah, hopefully this was entertaining. If anyone's watching, leave in the comments something we did bad or something we did good, and we'll try to...
Yeah, we're down to 0 viewers now. It was up to 2. You were up there.
Yeah, one of them was probably my wife. She's in the other room.
I know he's almost done. I told him to get off.
Yeah, she's probably already mad at me.
All
right,
guys,
well.
I will see you next week.
All right.
All right.
See y'all.
See you guys.